we are joined now by one Mitch Sherman of The Athletic. What's up, Mitch?
Good morning, Damon, Ravi. How are you guys?
I'm good. No, see, nobody ever says good morning, man. But bless your heart, Mitch. Are you? How's the old neighborhood? Are you hunkering down, or are you a part of the debauchery that goes on for the 4th of July?
Just like the loud noises and all that. No, I'm gonna mostly avoid anything that has to do with blowing things up. But that's just my.
What about
age
your son?
speaking.
Is he all in? Like, how does that work?
He wants to go. He wants to do it. We'll be out socializing. That's for sure. Tonight and all day tomorrow. We'll partake in some fun with neighbors, but I'm gonna just try to distract my kids, both my son and my 17-year-old daughter, just so they distract them in ways that prevent them from setting I wanted them to set as few fires as possible.
So
both literally and figuratively.
In your neighborhood, are you your persona, or are you like, oh, he's a lot cooler than his business like what's your
oh, okay.
what's your neighborhood?
I'm pretty cool in my neighborhood, I think. I don't know. It's probably something that it's probably something that like is better spoken by the neighbors than by me. Am I as cool as am I actually cool in the neighborhood more so than my work persona? I just kind of want to chill for the most part when it's a holiday. I'm going to sit back in a chair, I hope, and have some good food and drink and conversation. But yeah, it's what you see is what you get. It's probably pretty similar.
Cool. What's your go-to? So you've been there. How long have you been in your neighborhood?
Since 2013. Yeah, so we're going on 12 years.
Oh yeah, you're
11 years.
Do people have their go-to dish? Are you like, hey, Mary, make sure you make your, olive potato salad? Or
yeah. We're definitely like bringing like chips and guac or like some kind of a dip concoction to the neighborhood get together tonight or tomorrow. And I'm probably
Who's
just
responsible for the protein.
That's a good question. I mean, you want like names. So I mean, what we're gonna probably do is just get together after the main dinner would be eaten. Like we're on our own for that, and then it's as it starts to get dark or later in the evening, it's more snacks and cookies and stuff like chips, things like that are out in the garage, and we sit there and watch. We can see Warner Park from here. We're we're a few miles away, but those fireworks are going tonight, and I'm looking forward to watching that. I'm maybe play it by ear. Maybe we'll go get a little closer to that. But there's always a lot to just sit back and watch, which is great because then I don't have to do it myself. And I'd prefer that my kids just sit back and watch too, but they don't really want to do that. They want to run around and light some things off. The food,
does anybody have a golf cart?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, that golf cart. That lets me kind of know what we're dealing with. Okay.
It's more when the kids were younger. There were some dangerous, almost unfortunate golf cart things that happened around the 4th of July. The later you get into the night, it's just the more you need to put the golf carts away. But yeah, I don't know like where we're at now with the ages of both the adults and the kids. We've gotten older, amazingly, how that works. There's less of a focus on the golf carts than there was, say, like 8 to 10 years ago. Back then, it was just a free for all. There were golf carts. And I've never had one myself. The kids used to ask, like, how come we don't have one? That down they've got one. I'm like, no, you have bikes. You can walk.
They still have those over at Shields. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I think 4th of July might have the biggest discrepancy for me about like how much I enjoy the daytime for a holiday versus how much I dislike the nighttime for the holiday.
I would inclined to
because I really enjoy the food and like the cookouts and the parades and all that good stuff. And then we get to the fireworks and I'm like, I'm out.
And you always have like the 4:30, 3:30 people, like it's not even dark, and all of a sudden you'll see some semblance of like bright lights, and it's like,
or they're just doing the ones that are loud just for the sake of being loud. I'm like, what are we doing? They're not even cool looking.
Some of my mood has to really do with the temperature too nowadays. Like if it's 100, I'm kind of out. I don't.
oh yeah, you're definitely a grown up. Definitely.
Even in the evening, like I don't want to just sit there and sweat. And I think it looks all right. It looks like we're gonna get lucky. I think with
it
with
should be okay.
tomorrow.
Mine's almost exclusively because of my dogs. Like pre-dog,
Isn't it supposed to rain tomorrow?
Oh, the dog thing is a disaster too.
it is. It's terrible. Like I used to be pre-dogs. I was like, okay. Like I've never been super into fireworks, but I was like, I can sit from afar and watch them, and I didn't really care, and the noise didn't bother me. Now, man, one of my dogs will like tear through the walls if I'm not like home and medicating him and stuff, and it's like, oof, I'll stick with the cookouts. Let's lose the fireworks.
Thank you for reminding me. I need to make a run up to get something for the dog.
I'll say get to the vet, man. You gotta get something.
The vet just has to hate everyone right now. Like it's July 3rd. Like, could you have not thought of this a week ago? Like, why are you thinking of this today?
Yeah, last minute.
Yep.
How many? Just one dog, Mitch?
Oh yeah, one dog. We're a one dog family. Little dog.
I got 2 little ones.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
I got 3 big ones, and the biggest of the 3 is the one that's terrified of the fireworks. So that's fun.
Big snafu guy over here, Mitch. Big snafu guy. I'm looking to adopt
3 big dogs is not even the same conversation as one little one. I mean, I can just put him in. You pick him up and put him under my arm, and he'll generally be good. So I don't envy you with 3 big dogs on the 4th of July.
Mitch, let me ask you something. We're talking with Andy Kendi earlier about Big Ten Media Days and kind of some storylines, and we get 3 days. When you look at how big of a blowout there was for the SEC and the introduction of Texas and Oklahoma, it was like trending, flooding timelines. Your commissioners making statements. You're doing interviews with ADs. Are we okay? Is it just a Big Ten thing? Is it, I don't know, like the varying degrees of difference between how celebratory this conference expansion is, to me, I think is fascinating. If nothing more than just one conference really, really thinks they're good and they want to tell everybody. The other conference thinks they're good. They just want you to know it without them having to tell you.
Yep. There's a big difference between the Big Ten and the SEC and how they're going to approach these moments.
It's amazing.
I mean, the official entry, of course, for the former Pac-12 schools into the Big Ten is not until August 2nd. So I think some of that tends to will make it a little bit more subdued. I mean, here we are this week of the 4th of July, and it's, the holiday feel and, literal fireworks. And then Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC, and it's a big party, and there's fun on social media, and everyone's coming at Texas, and Texas will bring it right back. Like that's kind of just the MO, I think, of both Texas, more so than Oklahoma, but they're along for the ride, and the SEC. It's not with the Big Ten, and I don't really think it is with these schools that are coming in either. I mean they're proud schools. They'll stick their chest out. I mean, Oregon, USC, they're not taking a backseat to anyone. UCLA, across the range of sports and with its academics, like they're proud. Same with Washington. But I don't think it's going to lend itself to like a party atmosphere at all. And part of that is because of what they're leaving. Like this is a funeral for all of their former conference mates. Like their league is literally gone, and that's not the case with what Texas and at least Texas and OU are leaving a league that still exists. I think it's more okay to have a big party. Like imagine if the Big 12 had just ceased to exist because Texas and OU were leaving. Would they have still had the same party like that? Maybe. So they actually might have, but it's a different
like
feel.
The Southwest Conference turning into the Big 12 kind of.
Yeah. It's a different feel. And that was a different feel then in 96 also. The league, we're taking our best programs and we're going off to merge and, try to take over this other conference. That was a different feel than what this is. This is just this week in the South is just the rich getting richer. They're having a party about the rich getting richer.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten could do the same thing, but we'll choose not to.
So when you're looking at the the Pac-12 members coming in to the conference in terms of level of interest that is best for the conference, who's the most interesting for you?
From a move the meter standpoint, well, I mean, I think over the long haul, it's USC. USC has the most national appeal. It's the closest thing to a national program among these four. But right now, the level of interest here in this football season is Oregon. And they're top 5 team, top 3 team, maybe co-favorite in the Big Ten. When have you had a team come into a conference in this kind of a expansion environment and say they could win the league in year one? I mean, usually it's just, look to your left, you're getting punched. To your right, you're getting punched. It's a rough transition almost across the board for teams that change conferences. I don't think that's going to be the case for Oregon this year. They're set up to be one of the best teams, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country.
Mitch, it's funny you bring up USC kind of as the national brand because I think they may struggle as much as anyone making this transition. I know that they've been.
Yes, Joe Castiglione.
Yeah, I know they've been obviously better than UCLA and have better history than Washington. Although Washington was better under DeBoer, but I just look at that team and I go, I know they're one of the sexy names. I'm just having a hard time getting excited about that actual football team.
The football team there in 24, right? I totally agree. But I just think that over time, USC is going to be there. They're going to be in the conversation. Mm-hmm. This doesn't look like vintage USC. Now, the defense should improve. Will be difficult not to. It's like having the conversation about Nebraska's turnovers. It's like, oh, well, they're going to be better in turnovers. Yeah, they're not going to be minus 17 this year. That should go without, no one should ever be minus 17. USC is going to be better defensively in 24 than it was last year. They're on the upward trend. Okay. But it was really, really bad. So I think over time, USC will be USC, and it's going to be one of those power programs again, both nationally and within this new league. They'll have to find their way. Even if it was close to a vintage USC team. I mean, if you had a great quarterback in place and a great defense, one of those Heisman running backs or something like that. I still think that USC, it's going to take them time to adjust. Maybe even more so than Oregon. I think Oregon's adaptable. Oregon's a program that has gone through change and they'll change their uniforms 12 times a year, and it's kind of the same way with their football team. They can go into Michigan and win. I legit think they can. USC is more stuck in its ways of what USC is. They don't want to adapt to you. They want you to adapt to them. And, for that reason, I think the transition initially could be tougher, but they'll make it work, and they're going to be obviously a big time program in this league.
Yeah, I think the question for me with USC is the defensive improvement that we all assume has to happen enough to make up for the difference between Caleb Williams and Miller Moss?
Probably not.
That's where I get I don't feel great about that squad because of how quarterback centric obviously Lincoln Riley's systems have been. And it's okay, yeah, the defense is going to be better, but that's kind of like saying Iowa's offense is going to be better. It's okay, how much?
Now, I mean, the devil's advocate to that is Lincoln Riley tends to make it work with all of his quarterbacks. Yeah. He's a plug and play coach when it comes to quarterbacks. He's got the special formula with the guys at that position, and he's going to apply that formula to Moss, whoever plays quarterback for him. They're going to get the same training. Now, Caleb Williams was obviously a special talent. It's like when Mahomes was at Texas Tech. You plugged those guys in, and everybody threw for 1,000,000 yards. Mm-hmm. And it was Mahomes was a special guy, a different guy. Well, Caleb Williams was a different kind of guy and a special guy at USC with what he could do. And it's a travesty that he wasn't paired with a championship caliber defense, or he would have won national championships. But Lincoln Riley doesn't need to have that transcendent player. He doesn't have. He's had multiple Heisman winners, multiple number 1 picks, but I don't even, as long as he's got a good guy who's capable, I think his quarterback is going to be just fine.
It's interesting. I was watching, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, all these Rose Bowl games on the Big Ten Network. And outside of the occasional Michigan State, Stanford, it's just these iconic helmet games, right? It's, whether it was SC in Michigan or Michigan and Washington or Ohio State. And, well, there was an Ohio State and Utah in there in one of those. But when you look at the nostalgia of the conference, will the appeal aesthetically be easier for it to adjust to because of those former Rose Bowl matchups than maybe the geographic locations?
Sure. Yeah, there's been a long history and relationship between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, and it goes back way farther, of course, than Nebraska's involvement in the conference. And that's what people remember growing up about college football. If you're of a certain generation, many generations, is Keith Jackson and Pasadena, and the new age is whether it's Brent Musburger or Kirk Herbstreit. I mean, just the sunsets. I mean, that's Big Ten, Pac-10, Pac-12 clashes, and like you said, the iconic helmets, and even when it wasn't a USC Ohio State game,
UCLA Wisconsin,
Christian McCaffrey, or UCLA, I mean Jake Plummer, like they're great memories, and it's a natural fit from that standpoint. And I think because there is that history and that background, when these teams get together, if it's in October, it's going to feel like there's a foundation there.
Mitch, I want to switch gears here on you a little bit and get to some of the comments that Matt Rhule made with Joel Klatt earlier this week. And it seemed like to me, and I think one of our callers maybe brought this up, it seemed like to me that while Rhule did still mention all 3 quarterbacks, that he's being a little less coy about the fact that it's going to be Dylan Raiola. Did you get that sense, or am I reading into it too much?
I definitely got that sense. I don't know if it's like he just had his guard down a little bit more with Joel. Like Joel did a better job. I mean, look, first of all, this wasn't like the formal interview setting where he was standing up at a podium.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like, he's in his office or in the Nebraska football facility.
All I could think of is that they were getting ready to shoot an episode of Gilligan's Island, right? Like they had this like mock thing with the palm trees, and then there's this golf course. I'm like, they're showing the lighting and the whole setup. I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, I get it.
So that lends itself to him like just being a little more honest and real about it. And that's how I think that's how he's always felt about Dylan. But when he's been asked about it at Nebraska, in Lincoln over the past several months, he's always just kind of had like this buzzer, this reminder in his head, like talk about everybody. This is going to be all 3 of them. They're all 3 going to be needed. And he still said that one part, like other than him saying, I was going to say, he almost went into it about the leadership and your best player being your hardest.
Yeah. Dylan show some of that.
He snapped back.
He came right back.
He did, but that was the only time. Usually that's like 80% of the answer. And this time it was like 10% of the answer. And the rest of it was all, I mean, special family, special makeup, special player, quoted Tom Brady saying, he says, when your best players are your best workers, then that's when you really got something. Like, so he's suggesting that Dylan is both their best player and it was a departure, I think, from what we've heard. And I think, when we hear from him next, assuming the next time he, maybe he shows up on another podcast or something, but I think the next time we hear from him is at Big Ten Media Days. And I think he'll be right back into the every quarterback's going to be needed. He'll kind of deflect a little bit about Dylan. They just don't want to put too much on his shoulders. I mean, everyone knows that he's a special player and that Rhule thinks he's a special player, special talent, I should say. He's not really, he's until you've played in college, it's hard to call you a special player. He's a special player in high school. He's going to go back to that, like guarding the true freshman stance when he's in Indy. And I think even through camp in Lincoln, that's going to be the MO. As they get closer to the opener, I do think that you'll start to hear more about like what he's done over the month of August, and how he's put himself in position to take the reins, and we think he's ready, that kind of stuff. Like, it's going to happen. But I definitely took note of that. I'm glad you did too, that he was more open and just kind of loose about, letting people see the way that he feels about Dylan.
Surprised that he had the segment basically when he's talking about connecting and investing in young people and what it means to be playing in the state, and almost seamlessly transition into, hey, there's 5,000 kids running around to meet the players, but you know what? That can't be the highlight of their career. Like, we want to play championship caliber football. Hopefully it's this year. He seemed to be a little bit more confident about their potential level of success as well. And he in typical Coach Rhule fashion, he kind of set a barometer that they're shooting for without giving you hard data, right? It can't just be about me and the players. I mean, we got to play championship caliber football. So he automatically, like, we went from the rainbows and butterflies to, oh yeah, shoot, man, there's the realistic. You got to win too.
Yeah, it's good that he, shows an awareness of that kind of stuff. It's not like a requirement of the head coach to like have his finger on the pulse of young fans or fans in general, but what a bonus it is if your coach can do that. I mean, that's not why they hired him. They didn't hire him so like he was in touch with the fan base and like recognizing what the kids in the state needed. But the fact that you get that out of him, in addition to, his organization and the way that he runs the program and staying on top of, everything that is changing in college football, that's great. And, I think that really resonates with people. And I think there's parents of kids and kids, if they're old enough themselves to hear that and comprehend it, who are not in their head and going, yeah, it is great. And to stand there as the players come off the field and get a high five and, maybe you get one of their gloves or whatever it is, get an autograph, at a some kind of a, meet up outside of the stadium. Like, that's all great. Go to fan day, whatever. But like, there has to be more than that. And I think people of Nebraska, like, they feel it. So to hear Rhule say it is it's par for the course. It's at this point what you expect. You expect that he's going to say the right things and be in touch with the fans. But it was interesting in that forum for him to go down that road.
Yeah, your neighbor Damon. He needs some signature wins to go with his fandom.
He asked me the other day if he should bring his boombox to fan day, and I gave it the green light. So I think you'll see it there.
That's awesome, man. Give him my best if you see him tonight at the holiday part or at the 4th of July party, man.
I'll see him sometime this weekend. Thanks. Good to talk to you guys. Happy 4th.
You got it.